The soft murmur of conversation floated across the wide reception hall, mingling with the faint strains of a string quartet playing near the corner. Golden light spilled from chandeliers above, casting a warm glow over the white-clothed tables, the flickering candles, the bouquets of cream-colored roses carefully arranged in crystal vases. Anna sat at the far end of one of those tables, her back straight, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She tried to look comfortable, tried to look as though she belonged, but the truth was written in the tight line of her mouth and the way her eyes kept sliding toward the exit. She didn't know many people here. The bride was her cousin, Emily, and the groom she had met only twice. Beyond that, the faces blurred together, old friends from college, extended family members she hadn't seen in years, neighbors who greeted each other as though they had grown up in the same houses. Anna lifted the glass of sparkling water in front of her and took a slow sip. She watched the bubbles rise and pop. Around her, voices rose in laughter, silverware clinked against plates, and chairs scrapped back as groups of people leaned closer together. She could see, in the far center of the room, Emily and her new husband swaying gently in their first dance. It should have been easy to celebrate, but Anna felt the weight of her solitude more with every passing minute. Her seat had been assigned, tucked at the very edge of the long table near the door. Everyone else seemed paired, or at least clustered in small groups, talking easily, sharing inside jokes. Anna's smile faltered each time her eyes passed over them. She told herself it didn't matter, that she could enjoy the evening quietly. Still, a hollow ache began to spread inside her chest, one she couldn't quite swallow away. She shifted in her chair, smoothing the skirt of her pale blue dress. She had chosen it carefully that morning, wanting to look appropriate but not too noticeable. The hem brushed against her ankles now as she crossed and uncrossed her legs. She reached for her water again, holding the cool glass like an anchor. Time seemed to slow. Minutes dragged. The music changed, laughter rose again, and still Anna sat alone. She wondered if anyone noticed. She wondered if anyone cared. It was then that she felt a presence at her side. The chair beside her shifted, and a man lowered himself into it. She hadn't seen him approach. He moved with a quiet ease, as though he belonged exactly where he was, yet his sudden arrival made her catch her breath. He leaned slightly closer, not enough to be intrusive, but enough so his voice would reach her without anyone else hearing. "Pretend you're with me," he whispered. Anna turned her head. The man was tall, with sandy brown hair that caught the chandelier's glow, and eyes the color of clear lake water. He wore a simple charcoal suit, his tie slightly loosened, as though he had escaped the stiffness of ceremony but not the occasion's gravity. His expression was calm, steady, carrying no hint of mockery. Anna blinked, unsure what to say. He gave a small, understanding smile. "You looked like you could use some company." The words were gentle, not pitying. Still, they struck her heart like a soft knock on a closed door. She managed a quiet laugh, a sound more fragile than she intended. "Was I that obvious?" "Only to someone who's been there," he said. Something in his tone made her believe him. For a moment, silence stretched between them, and not heavy, but tentative, like a path neither of them had walked before. Then Anna drew a slow breath. "Thank you," she said. He nodded once, as though the matter were settled. Then he leaned back in his chair, still close enough to form a pocket of quiet in the noisy room. "My name's Daniel," he said after a pause. "Anna," she replied. "Nice to meet you, Anna." They exchanged faint smiles. The music shifted again. Couples filled the dance floor, some graceful, some awkward, all of them bathed in the glow of celebration. Anna watched them, her shoulders slowly easing as the sharp edge of her loneliness dulled. Daniel sat beside her without pressing, his presence steady but not demanding. Eventually, he asked, "Do you know many people here?" She shook her head lightly. "Just the bride. She's my cousin. We used to be close when we were kids, but life via broken bar." She trailed off with a small shrug. "Life happened." "I know the groom," Daniel said. "We were roommates in college. He asked me to come, said it wouldn't feel right without me here. I haven't seen him much since graduation, though." The admission surprised her. "So you don't know many people either?" "Not really." He gave a faint grin. "I thought I'd blend in better, but then I saw you. You look like you understood what it's like." Anna smiled despite herself. "Maybe we both found the wrong table, or the right one." Daniel countered softly. His words lingered, and Anna let them settle in the quiet space between them. For the first time that evening, the weight inside her chest eased. They began to talk in low tone as about small things at first, where they had grown up, what they did for work, the books that lingered on their shelves, the movies they watched on rainy days. Daniel spoke with calm, measured words, his voice carrying a steadiness that made Anna feel seen rather than studied. She found herself telling him more than she expected about her move to a new city, about how hard it had been to make connections, about how sometimes she felt like she was standing just outside the circle of other people's lives. Daniel listened without interruption, his expression open, his gaze steady. "I know what you mean," he said quietly. "It's easy to feel invisible in a room full of people. Harder to admit it out loud." Anna looked at him, surprised again. There was no judgment in his face, only understanding. She nodded slowly. "Yes, exactly." The evening moved forward around thema courses of food arriving and leaving, speeches rising and falling, glasses clinking in toasts. But for Anna, the sharp edges of the evening softened. She no longer counted the minutes. At one point, Daniel stood and offered his hand. "Come on, let's not let the night pass us by." She hesitated. "I'm not much of a dancer." "Neither am I," he admitted with a grin. "But I think that's the point." Something in his tone disarmed her. She placed her hand in his. His grip was warm, steady. Together they walked toward the dance floor, blending into the crowd. The music was slow, the kind that didn't demand skill, only willingness. Anna let Daniel guide her, her other hand resting lightly against his shoulder. At first, her movements were stiff, but gradually the rhythm seeped in. She looked up at him, and his smile was calm, reassuring. They moved in a small circle, their steps quiet, their connection fragile yet real. Anna felt her heart loosen, as though some long-locked door had cracked open just enough to let the light in. When the song ended, they laughed softly, the sound shared only between them. They returned to their table, but the distance she had felt earlier was gone. Hours slipped by, the night deepened, candles burned lower, and guests began to leave in twos and threes. Eventually, Anna realized the hall had grown quieter, emptier. She looked at Daniel. "I should probably head home soon." "Yeah," he agreed. His tone was soft, not pressing. "But I'm glad I sat down." "So am I," she said. They stood together near the door, the cool air from outside drifting in each time someone exited. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Daniel said, "Anna, a broken bar. I don't know where life takes us after tonight, but if you'd like, I'd like to see you again." "Not pretending, just a broken bar real." The words landed gently, without urgency. They carried only sincerity. Anna felt warmth spread through her chest. She thought of the hours she had spent alone, the ache of belonging nowhere. She thought, too, of this evening, of a stranger who had seen her, who had chosen to cross the space between them. She smiled, small but true. "I'd like that." They exchanged numbers, their hands brushing briefly as phones passed between them. The touch was light, but it carried the quiet promise of something new. When Anna finally stepped out into the cool night, she glanced back once. Daniel stood near the doorway, watching, his faint smile steady in the dim light. She breathed deeply, the air crisp against her skin. The loneliness that had weighed on her hours before had lifted, replaced by something softer, steadier. Not certainty, but possibility.